Let's talk about, I don't even know if this is a word, but as I was doing some research on this company, and it's great sometimes because we get to look at companies because you guys tell us. I get an email from a viewer, or I get an email from a listener that says, hey, you got to take a look at this company. You guys talk about public companies and such, and take a look. So I look at this company called Myomo, M-Y-O-M-O, Myomo. And they are publicly traded, by the way. Their stock symbol is MYO. They trade on the New York Stock Exchange market system. And I start taking a look at this thing, and I realize this is, I think that, because we are huge supporters of the Challenged Athletes Foundation. We've had, how many guests, Curtis? 300 guests with prosthetic limbs in here. This is a little different bent on that, but we support folks that want more mobility. And I think we've raised about $150,000 on this television and radio program over the last 7 years for them. So I look at this thing, and these guys are in what I would call the biomechanical robotics space. And as you saw there on the website there, they really are disruptors. So we brought on Paul Gudonis. Paul Gudonis is the CEO of Myomo, and he's here to talk about, because right there on the front page, if you're not watching us on television, you're listening to us on radio, it says, arm paralyzed by stroke, injury, or disease, regaining mobility may be possible. Paul, great to have you on the program. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Thanks a lot for the invitation to be with you today.
So, well, it was one of our viewers or one of our listeners that's impressed with you guys, so we thought that we would come online and have a chat with you about it. So, is there even a thing that, as I named it, biomechanical robotics? It seems like it would be the name, but to talk about the space that you're in, first of all.
Well, that's right. Earlier you talked about prosthetic technologies for amputees.
Right.
Our company provides devices to enable the millions of people worldwide who have their limbs, but they can't move them.
Right.
So Myomo stands for My Own Motion, and it's technology developed at MIT, where researchers a dozen years ago said, so there are devices for these amputees. What about the much larger number of individuals who've had a stroke or spinal cord injury, MS, ALS, and they're basically told, if you haven't recovered through rehab after 6 months, get used to it. That's what it's going to be for the rest of your life. And we're now showing that that's no longer the case. And so we're really disrupting the traditional rehab industry, that for all these individuals where rehab hasn't worked for them, we're now restoring function so they can go back to work, younger people going back to school, staying out of nursing homes with this lightweight medical robotic technology called a myoelectric orthosis.
Paul, let me ask you something. So you talk about the old line rehab industry, and I'm very familiar with that because my own mother has MS. And I can tell you that really is the story. And I think in earnest, they try to rehab and they do the best they can. But really, I think the word that we don't want to let pass us here is disruptive. This really is disruptive. This is a whole different ball game. Talk about how the industry is going to change because of this, because I think this is a big deal.
Well, if you look at just strokes alone, worldwide, about 15 million individuals suffer a stroke every year. And this is from the World Health Organization statistics. And about 1/3 of those individuals, unfortunately, die due to the brain injury. About 1/3 recover by going through traditional rehab, but 1/3 are left with this upper limb disability. Paralysis, where they can't use their arm, they can't use their hands, so they have difficulty feeding themselves, cutting food, carrying objects, going back to work. And so what we are able to do now is offer a brand new technology. It's commercially available. We've shipped hundreds of devices across the United States and now beginning in Europe to enable these individuals to, again, regain motion that they thought was lost for the rest of their lives.
Paul Gudonis is the CEO and chairman of a company called Myomo, and you can certainly find out about this by going to myomo.com, MYOMO.com. It stands for My Own Motion, actually. I'll put it out there on the Big Biz Show website. We'll tweet it out to our 40,000, and folks can check it out. Again, they are publicly traded under the stock symbol MYO. I have to ask you, you're using and I will tell you, we're so familiar with sort of the space only because of the work that we've done with the Challenged Athletes Foundation. In fact, right on the set here, we have a poster that we keep on the set every day. And I can tell you, some of my best friends that I ride bikes with are stroke victims, and I can, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, are these guys using their own? Did you say they're using their own neurological signals to move these devices that you guys have created?
That's right. So what happens in a stroke, whether it's a blood clot or hemorrhage in the brain, you get this loss of oxygen and blood supply to the brain. It impacts the motor cortex, and which then enables these people to have a stroke that basically blocks the ability to use one side of the body. It's called hemiparesis, half paralysis. And so typically you see one half of the body paralyzed after the stroke. The arm is hanging flaccidly at the side. The leg has a condition called foot drop where they drag the foot along. However, they still have a trace signal that they're sending from the brain through the spinal cord into the muscle, but it's not enough to power the muscle on its own. So our device has these it's a lightweight robotic device that you can see on the video there, and has sensors built right into it that rest on the surface of the skin. And so when you think about moving your paralyzed arm, it picks up that trace neurological signal, amplifies it for you, and you can move your arm and hand again. That's how it was named by Maggie, 32-year-old stroke survivor, hadn't used her arm for 3 years, got invited into the MIT labs to try it out. She put it on, and she thought about moving her arm. She could move her arm for the first time in years. She said, gee, this is like my own motion, hence the name Myomo.
Sure. I think, there's a couple of things here that stand out, one of which is ease of use. So when a patient puts this on, Paul, is it a new? I would assume it's not a new learning experience, because when they put on a prosthetic leg or a blade to run on or something, it really is a new experience. It's not like walking regularly. I have to assume when you put a device like this on, because as you said, there's a trace neurological signal. There's not a lot of time between being able to be proficient at using it, right?
We fit these devices on patients through certified prosthetist orthotists. So these are medical professionals whom we train. They fit the device on the patient's arms. They do the software settings so it has the right amplification for each individual user. And then we train occupational therapists at a local rehab hospital all across the country, so that someone goes in, they typically need about 10 sessions, about an hour each, plus practice time at home. Then after that, they're usually proficient to be able to, again, use both arms again to open a bottle of water, a yogurt container, cook their own food, carry objects, do their own laundry. So those are the kinds of things you learn through occupational therapy with the device.
Paul Gudonis is the chairman and CEO of a company called Myomo, and it's very disruptive in the biomechanical robotics space. There, you're looking at a thing called the Myo Pro. And I can tell you, just by looking at this video here, and again, if you're listening to us on radio, you need to go to the website, myomo.com, to see what you guys are doing there. Any chance for, now you guys are working with upper limbs, any chance of research down the road on legs and such like that?
Yes, we could do legs as well. Our patent portfolio covers any type of orthotic device or powered brace that uses the body's own electromyogram or EMG signals that I was describing to you earlier. So we could do that. However, our team right now is very much focused on the upper extremity, because we've got the only devices that enable paralyzed arms to move, they use their hands again. And so we're bringing this technology worldwide. And the next exciting development for us, which we'll roll out later this year, is a device for children. So right now we fit adolescents and adults, but there are 150,000 children under the age of 18 just in the United States who have cerebral palsy, they suffered a stroke, they have a shoulder nerve injury at birth. And so for some of these kids, they'll be able to use their arm for the first time in their lives.
The as I mentioned, disruptive doesn't really describe what you guys are doing. Congratulations on this, and next time I would love to have you back on the air again, because next time I want to get into your background. You're talking about a guy who's been in software telecommunications. He graduated from Northwestern and the Harvard Business School. He's clearly the right guy to run this. Paul, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Myomo Incorporated. Myomo Incorporated, and of course, MYO is their stock symbol. I don't currently own this stock, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a look at it. Even if you haven't moved your hand and arm in years due to neuromuscular injury or disease, it is possible that the Myo Pro could be able to help you use your arm and hand again. Really interesting stuff.